There is something that is going on in our world currently, and I have the notes out of order, but we're okay. There is something that is going on currently in our world that is getting a lot of attention from Christians. It's getting a lot of attention on social media. It's getting a lot of, pastors are dedicating like whole sermons to it, whatever. And it's the situation in Israel with Palestine and Hamas and all that stuff. And so if you've been on the internet for like 2 weeks, I'm sure it has come across your feed or your stories or your videos or whatever. I'm not going to spend a whole sermon on it, but I do think it's something we can touch on really quick. And some of you are thinking, this is going to be long. I know, because I don't do quick. But there are some things I think, and they give me the microphone, that are important for us to understand with everything that is going on. So this will be the quick version. This is not the whole sermon on it. Maybe you can do a squiggly line after these and go from there. First of all, there are a lot of good quality pastors out there putting out good quality messages about this. If this is something that, you are interested in or you want to find more resources about, shoot me a text, shoot me a message. I'll send you some videos of pastors who do a great job breaking this down. Some of them are like nerd level, like PhD, like the Treaty of Balfour after World War I, right? Like, how many of you are interested in that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. Yeah, I got you. Okay. But shoot me a message, right? I'll send you the ones, the pastors that I feel like do a very good, biblical, accurate job. It wouldn't be much different than something that I would do. We can get over to that. If you want to talk about it with me, buy me lunch. We'll go out. Maybe coffee, just depends what mood I'm in. We'll talk about it all day. But from up here, I'm not going to spend a whole thing on it, although I do think that it is important. There's a couple things for us to understand. Number one, the very first thing is that whole situation is extremely biblical. Biblical, okay? So it is extremely biblical. In fact, you can find the start of it in the Bible. Okay, you can go back to Genesis. I think it's chapter 12. I don't have it down. I think it's 12. But Abraham has 2 sons, Isaac, Ishmael. One ends up being the Jewish people. One ends up being the Palestinian people among a bunch of other people. So the beginnings of all this is in the book. You should read it. It's way better than the video that's going on right now. Okay, read the book. Okay, things we need to understand. The Bible is a history book. Is a lot of things, but one of the things that it is a history book. It tells of accurate past events. They really happened. Real people, real places, real beginnings, real countries, all that stuff. It also tells of the future accurately. So it tells the story of great catch there. It tells the story of all of humanity. It tells the beginning. It tells the end. Now it's awkward because we live in the middle of it. So it's kind of like, what? The Bible is accurate. You and I, mainly you, should read it, okay? For yourself. You should read it for yourself. One of the things that is like the overarching story of the Bible, if we were to step back and look at the big picture is that God created everything and heaven and earth were together in the garden. Sin came, heaven and earth were separated. When Jesus comes back the last time, heaven and earth get combined again. The middle time is not great, all right? It's not the way it's supposed to be. That includes 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, yesterday, and until Jesus comes back. So there are bad things that happen, okay? You are better off with an understanding of this when you read it for yourself than watching somebody on the internet. So don't get your theology from TikTok, right? Because you'll drive yourself crazy, right? What's the water level of the Euphrates River today? Calm down, like chill. It doesn't matter. Don't go over there and look either. It's probably not the best place to be right now. But sometimes we base our whole thinking about Christianity on a 30-second Instagram video, when we have access to like all the details we want. Now, if you come across something you don't understand, you come across like, what is this talking about? Then we look for extra resources. But all of us should start here. Read it first. It's not as hard as it seems, but at least get the background, at least get the understanding from this. Not the news, not a politician, not some random person on TikTok. Start here. Then if you have questions, go somewhere else. Everybody with me? Okay. Have I made anybody mad yet? Yes. Good. If there be one, then it was worth it. Okay. Don't worry, it's coming up. Understand first that this is biblical. Now, understand that this is spiritual. This is spiritual warfare playing out in the world. Here we go. This is where people get upset. You may not like this, there's good, there's evil. It's always been that way. Also in the book, you should read it. There is things that God likes, there is things that God hates. There are things that demonic forces like, there are things that demonic forces don't like, and they hate, and they clash over the years. Now, yes, there are politics involved. Yes, there are economics involved. Yes, there are religions involved, demonic, false religions, but whatever. Those things may be involved, but at the end of the day, this is spiritual. This is an attack on the God that we serve and at a spiritual level. So this is biblical. It is spiritual. Yes, it's going to play out in earthly things like economics and politics and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it is spiritual. And the main driving force behind it is demonic. Everybody still with me? Good. Here's the thing that I think is important for us. This whole thing should not be your main focus. Okay? Whatever is happening over there, you can't fix it. Okay? Whatever is happening over there is not the main thing in your life. Okay? A lot of people, when this stuff over there happens, they start reading Revelation, right? Because the end times are coming. Now, one good thing that does happen out of some of this craziness is a lot of times people will start thinking about, well, what if the world does end, right? Or what if the end times are coming? Or maybe I should read this book. That is good, right? People interacting with this is good. But a lot of times people will read the book of Revelation. And I think, and again, I have the microphone, people misunderstand the point of Revelation, okay? And it's funny we're in the book of John because it's the same author. And if we remember, John wrote his gospel that we're reading as a way to help people strengthen their faith in Jesus, right? He said it is evangelistic. This is the point. I have it written down so I wouldn't forget. By writing these so you continue to believe that Jesus is the Messiah and that by believing in him you will have power in his name, right? That was his point. His point of Revelation is very similar. His point of Revelation is to strengthen believers who are going through persecution or a tough time. Some of us read Revelation or Daniel or whatever, and we think this is a roadmap to the end times so that we know exactly what's going to happen when. No. Revelation is to encourage you that at the end of the day, it might get bad, but Jesus is coming back and he wins. So if our focus is on the details of the end times, you're missing the point. The point of Daniel or John or whoever writing about the end times is to let us know how it ends so that we can live from victory now. And so some of us, we get caught up in the details and we forget that that's not the point. We get caught up in something, and here's your nerd word of the day, called eschatology. And that's the study of end times, okay? Some of you don't care, but that's what it is, all right? That is when people study end times, eschatology. And it has a place, all right? But it should not replace evangelism, okay? Now, we've said what evangelism is. I expect you to know that word, all right? Eschatology is fine. But if your focus is that, man, the world is ending, cool, you need to tell people about Jesus. If your focus is that, man, Israel just had this sixth sign that just happened and the Euphrates dried up, and I think China is what Gog and Magog represent and all this stuff, your kids need to come to church, right? This is the point. If the Messiah is coming back, you need to spend time in your marriage. So these end time things, and sometimes we do it with other stuff like where were dinosaurs and how specifically did God create the world? We get caught up in stuff that don't matter. Because you can find very mature, very knowledgeable, very faithful Christians who believe totally different things about what Revelation talks about. Pre-rapture, post-rapture, millennialism, all this stuff. Who knows? At the end of the day, that guy's coming back. I know that. That's what matters. He wins at the end. You better make sure you're on his side now. You better make sure that the ministry that God has called you to in your life, sharing with people at work, sharing with your family, doing the things that he's called you to do now are the actual focus. Because whether it's happening tomorrow or 10,000 years from now, we don't know, but we know it does happen. And so you better make sure that when he comes back, you're on the right side and you're doing the things that he's called you to do. So end time events doesn't replace evangelism. It doesn't. If anything, it should strengthen your resolve to do those things now. If you really think, and I'm not saying you're wrong, if you really think that all this stuff is lining up, that this is the war that ends all wars, you shouldn't miss church, right? If you really think that Israel's about to lose and China's coming in, right, and all this stuff, you need to be sharing with people at work. You need to be reaching the lost, because Israel losing the war isn't the worst thing that happens. Eternal separation and destruction in hell is the worst thing that happens. Right? So it is okay to see these things, but they can't be your focus. That's not the point. That wasn't the point of Revelation. That's not the point of the Holy Spirit revealing these things to John. It's to say, hey, we win. Live from it now. Live from it. Now, when we see things like this, why do all these people hate Israel? Because this is true. When we see these crazy events that are happening, it should strengthen your resolve in this book because it talks about it. It's happened for years and years and years. The names are different. It's all the same, only the names have changed, right? Nobody? Okay, whatever. I got like one person. Yeah, Kay Newcomb, yeah. Yeah, Kay Newcomb knows it, right? Sorry, Kay. I don't know why I pick on you so much. It's because I like you. Teacher of the Year, Kay Newcomb, right? Yes, thank you. Anyway, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But what were we talking about? I don't know. It's all the same. Oh, yeah, the different. Yeah, right, of course. Keep me straight. Right. You're talking about Bon Jovi, obviously. But it's all the same. The story is the same. What did the Egyptians try to do? Kill the Jewish people. What did the Romans try to do? Kill the Jewish people. What did the Babylonians try to do? Kill the Jewish people. What's Hamas trying to do? Kill the Jewish people. Like, it's all the same stuff. I think one thing we do have to remember, this may be the end. If it is, I don't have to get ready for next week's sermon, right? Ask the guy that you get to go see. He knows better than I do. But imagine for a second how the Jewish community felt during World War II. Don't you think they probably thought this is the end times, right? How do you think they felt, and this is your history nerd part, when they got their own independent nation in 1947, and then they literally fought the whole Middle East the next year? How do you think people thought then? Well, the world's probably about to end. How do you think they fought during the 7 Years' War in the 60s? They probably thought the world was going to end. How do you think they fought? They thought during the Yom Kippur War. Some of you are thinking, I've never heard of any of these things. There's 3 people who have. The point is, Israel has been at war since this book started. At some point, one of these wars isn't going to go well for them. So don't let all of that replace what God has called you to in your individual ministry, in your individual place. Don't let worrying about some events thousands of miles away that you can't control, whether it's the end times or not, don't let that worry replace your worship of him now. Okay? Good. Just some quick questions that I think kind of everybody would ask. These are kind of the most common ones. And if you don't like these answers, I'm sure you can find a pastor on the internet who'll tell you what you want to hear. Are we in the end times? Yes, we are. Now, when the Bible refers to the end times or the last days, it is talking about the time between when Jesus comes the first time and he comes the second time. So are we in the end times? Yes. Jesus has already come once. Okay? The people who got the letters wrote to him in the New Testament, they lived in the end times. your kids. It's the end time period, because when Jesus comes back again, that's it, right? Like, we're done. That is the end times. The Old Testament people, they didn't live in the end times because Jesus hadn't come the first time, okay? So do we live in the end times and last days? Yes, we do, all right? Biblically speaking, when you read, Paul's writing letters and he's like, we're in the last days. We are in the last days, right? That is when Jesus comes back this time. First of all, it's going to be awesome. It's not that the first time he came wasn't great, all right? He came in humility the first time, and he, shed his blood and all that stuff. But the second time he comes back, it's sort of like Rambo, right? Like, that's exactly what happens. Like, he comes back to shed the blood of his enemies, and it's going to be incredible, all right? I can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait for that. But anyway, the first time was good. Saved us all from, hell and damnation and eternal separation from God. But the second time, get your popcorn ready, because it's going to be fun to watch. Anyway, at least for me. So, do we live in the end times? Yes, because when Jesus comes back next, that's it. And heaven and earth will be reunited. When should we worry? Well, I just said you shouldn't. Don't worry about it, right? If you're saved, it's a good thing when he comes back. It's a good thing that, I know it may sound crazy, it's a good thing that things seem to be happening more frequently. Revelation says that a new heaven and new earth are being birthed, and it compares the troubles, the wars, rumors of wars, and all that stuff to birth pains. Well, if somebody who's had a child, the more frequent the contractions, and some of you, I'm bringing up like terrible memories, right? The more frequent the contractions, the closer it is to the baby coming. So yes, it may seem like more and more bad things are happening. That means we're getting closer and closer to the end. When should we worry? You shouldn't. You should worship God now. But if you do want to worry, you should be worried when Israel loses, because that's what happens in Revelation. Right? Everybody's rooting for Israel. Well, the big final one, they lose. So when that happens, I feel like church attendance will be really good. All right? We still don't need to worry at that point, though, because if you are bought and redeemed by the blood of Jesus Christ, you are going to heaven. Okay? If you're not, Okay, one last question, and if I haven't made you upset yet, then this one's it. Should we be on Israel's side? Yes, we should, okay? In case those of you who don't know, Jesus was Jewish, okay? Now, I'm not getting into replacement theology and all this stuff, and is the church the new Israel and all these things. We can talk about that at lunch, but it'll be a long one, all right? At the end of the day, the Jewish people, ethnic, which is like genetic, they are Jewish, are God's chosen people. He expanded that out to us, which is good news. I'm not Jewish, so I didn't get the first VIP pass, all right? Jesus bought me the second one. Now, there are people who believe that because people are Jewish, eventually God's going to do something and save them all. Maybe. It might happen. But even if he does that, it's going to be through them coming into a relationship with Jesus Christ, okay? So, should we be on Israel's side? Probably. One side was chosen by God, the other one live streams killing babies. This isn't complicated. Pick the side that doesn't live stream killing babies. Okay? Thoughts? Good. All right. So, if you want more information about it and you're not sure where to find it, text me. I'll send you pastors to look up who do a really good job. That would kind of be the same as what I do anyway. But we have a purpose, and we have individual callings and ministries here now. And I doubt that any of us are supposed to be end-time experts. We might be, but I doubt any of us are supposed to be fixing a situation that has been going on for 4,000 years. I bet more likely all of us are called to share Jesus with those around us. I bet all of us are called to get closer in fellowship with Jesus each day. So that's where we're going to focus.